Okay, hi Manas.
Hi, man.
It's great to have you here.
Pleasure.
I would like you to introduce yourself at first for the students here and then we can take it ahead.
Sure. So, I'm Manas, and I've been in the product tech ecosystem for 16 years, worked with bunch of startups. I'm an engineer, essentially. My story is very different because when I started my engineering, there were no startups. So I got placed in Accenture, did 3 years of that, but that was engineering/services. Thought, let's do something else. So I got into antics, and I joined Cognizant Antics, spent 3 years there also.
Okay.
But after like 6 years of my initial career, I realized I can't code, I can't do antics. What do I do? So either I could have gone into another antics or engineering company or a services company, or I could have taken a leap of faith. And this is 2012 and 13, and that's where I got to know that there's something called startups. And this is the time when Snapdeals and Flipkarts were very small. Like series of 30 million was like huge deal for the entire ecosystem.
I don't know about other batches, but in my batch, C1, I belong from C1, I was the first student, so I believe there were many people who would wanted to go for a product role considering they were from various backgrounds.
Sure.
I feel this is one of the podcasts which is going to get the most viewership because we've found the perfect person to talk about it. There are a lot of people who would relate to it.
While I was telling you the story, I realized that I actually started as a BD guy. Right? I used to sell last mile and warehouse solutions to all kinds of brands, sellers, small sellers. I've been to Chandni Chowk, I've been to Bombay. We used to go and talk to people in Bangalore, Kolkata, all kinds of sellers, all categories, right? Pet supplies, book owners, apparels. We have gone to big brands. So that's how it started. So very important skill set, by the way, for being a product manager, right?
So people, if you want to sit on this chair, please go to Chandni Chowk and other places that he mentioned, by the way. So Manas, as I said, you're the perfect guy for having this conversation with us because a lot more people actually look into a role like yours and probably a journey like yours ahead, and then they would want to pursue further. So I'd want to understand from you your journey from Paytm to Cast24 to OLX, as you said, and now Noise.
Yeah.
How has it been so far in terms of struggle, in terms of approach, in terms of your understanding about the market? And you also said that you come from a time when there were no startups altogether.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that? So I have a follow-up question, series of follow-up questions about that, but let's talk about your journey.
Sure. No, I think I'll talk about, fortunately, I've been in a lot of organizations. I'll talk about the pivotal ones which will make sense for the audience here, right? I think the most pivotal when I started initial of my journey as a product manager was Paytm. The reason I say Paytm was because it was a classic digital consumer company, massive scale when I joined. They're already $1 billion company when I joined them, right? From a valuation standpoint. But the scale was massive. The problem was very, very relevant because online and digital payments was setting up in India. Was lucky enough to see the two biggest spikes in the company's history, which was one was Uber integration. So Uber was exploding in India, but Uber did not have two-factor authentication, and RBI put a ban on them, and they had to actually integrate that stop operations.
Okay.
So they had to actually integrate with someone. Paytm was the only wallet which had that consumer overlap, and they integrated with us, and then we got massive amount of new users to cross-sell and upsell. That was one point, and of course, demonetization was the other point.
Right.
But the story from Paytm was like massive scale, a lot of learning, a lot of make it and break it, but still able to like kind of deliver a lot of value to the users, right? And hardcore consumer experience, right? You take an app and how do you really build a moat around one service and then cross-sell and upsell, right? So a masterclass in kind of building great digital consumer experiences in Paytm. The next was, of course, very interesting was Cast24. The reason Cast24 for me was very interesting because by then, everyone was trying to solve for demand in the ecosystem, right? Everyone was trying to build a consumer platform. That was the right thing to do. That was the sexy thing to do. But Cast24 took the same approach and said, we will solve for supply. So their business model initially was to actually aggregate supply for dealers. So they used to actually inspect cars and get it from customers and give it to dealers, which was very, very interesting to kind of build that base, right? And of course, a very ops heavy business, a lot of data intelligence, a lot of pricing intelligence. So a lot of learnings on the operation side there, and a very interesting model to kind of approach when everyone is trying to, move towards north then to south. Noise, of course, is the most recent one, and it's very interesting for me because I was a software person and I get into an organization which is kind of building wearables and audio at a juncture of, let's say, health, personalization and habit creation, because you're building in the hardware ecosystem, then a software layer and the analytics layer. So Noise is very, very interesting because how you're trying to kind of build an organization where normally the incumbents are built outside of India, right? How do you really come into the market, understand your Gen Z and millennials as your core user group and build from them, right? And which is like a hardware product, you have to integrate software and you have antics, right? You can't just make one product and kind of ship it to the user, right? So I think noise has been very, very interesting from that perspective in terms of, personalization and learning.
Right. So I've been hearing a lot about, from your experience about sales, and then you transitioned into product, and then now you have a very good knowledge and a very workable knowledge of product altogether. So how does that amalgamation works like sales and product going together? What is your thinking on that, and somebody wants to go and pursue that?
No, I think it's actually two hands together. I'll be very honest, right? Ideally, if I break it down at a very first principle basis, ideally, sales is the team essentially that will go in the market and will get the customers, right? So they understand the pulse of the customer. Absolutely. They know what is selling, what is not selling, and that's the whole aspects, right? The insights from sales essentially will get parked onto a product team, right? And product team will basically understand, okay, if this is working, why it's working, how can I really build a long-term roadmap for that problem and solution in terms of the entire phase of the journey, right? So to be very honest, because I started as a business and sales guy, I really understand that if you have to be a great product manager, you have to go and talk to people. You have to talk to your customers, right? So a most common practice is that product managers, whether in B2B or B2C, will go and speak to their customers, and vice versa. Sales is also a very pivotal part of your entire roadmap planning as a product manager, right? Because they should be able to influence what's valuable to the entire product, right? Because at the end of the day, your job as a product manager is to solve the problem of the customer by meeting the goals of the business.
So you mentioned about a few concepts like prompt engineering and in fact design thinking as well. How important is it for somebody who's a fresher like me, for example? And I said there are many other students in my batch who wanted to go for a PMM or a PM role further.
Sure.
So how important these concepts are, and if in case I have to start from the scratch, where should I be starting from? What should I look at?
Sure.
What exactly is my initiation phase for this?
Sure. See, I think two things you asked, one is prompt engineering, another is design
thinking. Yeah.
I'll take both. So prompt engineering is very new. I think all of us use Gemini and ChatGPT and Claude, right? But for you to kind of have a structured thought process, I think the fundamental of it is to actually take a problem and write the 5 whys of the problem, break it into what is the problem, who are you trying to solve it. If you even structure the 5 whys of a problem on a Word doc, which is not even without ChatGPT, and you copy paste it, you will get most of the results, right?
Right.
But it's a skill. It's not that you cannot learn it. As you keep on writing more prompts, it's a smart interface that you're talking to.
Right.
It'll give you responses and you'll keep on iterating, right? It's like a conversation like we are having. Right. You'll get the context will keep on building. But the basic is that you have to kind of give the right 5 whys to the problem that you're trying to solve. And then of course there are a bunch of free courses by OpenAI, Gemini, you go to YouTube. Today knowledge is dispersed at speed of speed of light. So you can learn it. And I think it's a skill which you don't need to master day zero. It's a process. So as you keep on doing over the years, you'll get really good at it, right? That's about prompt engineering. I think design thinking is something that you really should build, whether you're a business guy, whether you're a marketing guy, whether you're a product guy, because design thinking basically helps you not jump to the idea or the problem statement or the solution, mostly that people jump to solution. It makes you go back to the user, right? Because you start building that empathy in your thought process about what is the core problem of the user at the end of it.
So let's jump back to your earlier experience of sales. If I have to ask you one word to define it, how was that?
Oh, sales is hard, man. I think, I think it's the hardest thing. See, ability, I think that's the thing. And and that's where I love what Hiveschool is also doing. I'll talk about that, is that, I think culturally as a country, we are not empowering, pushing children to actually go and do sales. I'll tell you why. Western countries, you'll see teenagers will start working in their summer holidays and they'll start earning some money and they'll understand, how much are they earning per hour, per day, per week, right? That concept of actually going and pitching yourself, putting yourself out there, facing failure or accepting success and then driving out of it is something that we don't do, right? And that's the problem in our ecosystem as well, is that even, by the way, another interesting example is even dating, right? Dating as a culture in Western age starts when they're teenagers, right? So they're putting themselves out there, right? Irrespective of all rejections or acceptance, right? So you have to pitch yourself, right? You go and convince someone, hey, why don't you go out for a coffee with me, right? So I think sales is hard because you need to be authentic. You want to be direct. You also want to sound good, and you want to ensure that you are projecting all the right things about yourself as a product, as a service, as a person. So it's not easy, right? It's not easy to go and tell someone that, hey, invest this amount of time and money in me. So I think that's where it's hard. It's fun because the failures makes it fun, because you'll have 50 conversations and 50 rejections, and when the 51st one comes, you'll be really good, right? And it'll compound. So I think that's what I love about sales. That is something where there's no playbook. You can't go prepared and say, okay, I'm going to talk about these 5 things and I'm going to be done. How your conversation goes real time with someone when you're sitting across the table completely changes, right? That's the best part of it. So you have to have presence of your mind, you have to have heart in the product that you're trying to sell, and then of course do your best, and have to take your failures on the chin and then repeat. It's a hard job. Just have fun, guys. This is a great place for you to learn, compound yourself. So you are coming at the right place. Just utilize this time to the best of your capability, and things will just fall in place. So all the best and do well, and I look forward to kind of meeting you somewhere in the field or like in Hiveschool. Yeah.